Hi. I want to just thank everybody for being here. I really want to create this space to really share different stories from a lot of women that I know personally in my circle, and also women that I've come to know in my own healing journey through Project Beauty, and really sharing those stories, because I truly believe that stories are powerful, and that when we give space to stories, that we also heal ourselves. So tonight, it's about having that space for Desiree to talk and to share her experience. And I am just tremendously grateful, by the way, for you to come on and to just be open and to share your story. So thank you so much for being here with me, Desiree, number one, and everyone else that's tuning in tonight. We will be continuing this chat tomorrow night also on the Peach Cality channel. I'm going to tag them in another post in the IG story where I will also be talking about domestic violence and the healing on her platform. And then Thursday night, we're going to be back right here on IG Live on Project Beauty. And we'll be talking to Anna, which is another survivor that I know that has just a tremendous story to tell. So let me welcome you first. And just, I want you to open your heart and just share what at the level that you're comfortable with. Okay.
Got it.
Sounds good. All right, girl. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, your background, where you're from and all of that.
So I'm a transplant to Texas. I'm originally from the East Coast, but I totally feel like a Texan. Like I'm so where I belong. I'm not feeling this cold weather. It's reminding me of my Jersey days.
Yeah, it just dropped.
Right, out of nowhere. So, but here I have a business. I'm an esthetician by trade, and I'm a permanent makeup artist. So I have a brow studio in Dallas called I Love Dallas. Yeah. I have a beautiful, beautiful 11-year-old daughter. She's in 6th grade, and she literally was like my saving grace for everything in life. Just a renewed sense of purpose, and like I feel like we all kind of go through those times, like, what am I here for?
Yes.
Like, is life worth living? And yeah. Actually, at the time when I got pregnant, so I'm gonna back up a little tiny bit. When I was 16, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. Was not supposed to have kids, or not that I would never, but that would be probably difficult, and I most likely wouldn't have any children.
Yeah.
And I was suffering with like extreme like anxiety and depression. I was like 26, but I had been going through it since I was like 17. That was my first experience it, but didn't know that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And I just was to a point where I was like, if this is how I'm gonna have to live my life, I don't want to live like this. And I'd say like a month later, I found out I was pregnant.
Wow.
And so like I was like, okay, well, I have to stay here because I have this like new being in my body. And ever since having her, it showed me that I was able to manage my anxiety and depression without medication. And it was like mind over matter.
Yeah.
So she is my angel. She's everything.
Yeah.
And just expression of love itself. So exactly. I feel like I totally kind of got off the topic for
That's okay, girl. You know what? I want you know that this is not, there's no format. This is literally a chat with your girls where we're sharing from our heart. And that was from your heart. She was a turning point for you. So that needed to come out, She saved you from wanting to give up on your life. So that's powerful, girl. That's powerful. But you are from New York originally, and you stayed there for your younger days, right?
Born and raised in Jersey, lived in New York for like 10 plus years. And so that's where I made my journey from New York to
Texas. Okay. And how was your life in New York like? How was your family life?
Well, so New York was an interesting time. That's where, like, I went from like my parents' house. Do you want to start back there? It's like parents' house, like how family life was then.
Share what you want to share about like your story of abuse, because I think people will love to hear about what took place that took away that part of you, because me and you talked about it, how you struggled to rebuild your confidence. And I think that it will be helpful to maybe share what did happen to the level of your comfort. Like, I don't want you to think that you have to share anything that's outside of your comfort, because this is your story, but just give background as to what has affected you,
Yeah, for sure. So for me, abuse started, I don't know, at the age of like, from what I can remember, like 3 or 4. And I was sexually abused by my aunt's husband. But to be honest, I've experienced every kind of abuse, mental, physical, emotional, sexual. And at such a young age too. And kind of when you're going through it, it's normal because you don't have, you know, anything else to compare it to. Like, that's just,
right.
It's life. And this is how my life is going. I'm a child. I don't even know that it's necessarily a problem.
Because at 3, like, who knows at 3 that the people
right.
that are supposed to take care of you, because you were with your mom. It wasn't like you were with strangers. You were with family.
Right, right. And the person who did do the sexual abuse to me, I remember him always telling me, like, you cannot tell anybody because then I'm not going to be your friend anymore. And
it was like manipulation.
When you're a child, like, I mean, I want this person to be my friend. I want this person to like me. And you know, so I'm not going to tell anybody. It's going to be our secret. And then, so I never told my mom or anything, but she had some like suspicions about it because she asked me when I was about 6 years old if anything had ever happened. And by that time I had stopped because we had moved to a different state. And I just broke down and cried and I said, yes, you know, something did happen. And I kind of want to preface this, like, I am not trying to slander or trash my family at all, because I definitely have arrived at a place of forgiveness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I get that.
But I think, you know, as an adult, thinking about what I would do if that was my daughter, I was thinking, like, you know, I'm getting ready to kill the person. But my mother, it kind of just like brushed under the rug, which I know is typical in a lot of families now as an adult, that's kind of what happens. But then she further kind of did more damage because she would tell me things like that I was going to grow up and be a weirdo, or I was going to grow up and do things like that because of what happened to me.
Yeah.
So all of this is being programmed into me as a child.
Right.
And then just within my own home, you know, physical abuse and stuff like that. And I think sometimes parents too, they just, you know, they parent from a place of where their level of consciousness is, what they know how to do. But how it affected me, and I didn't even realize until I got older and started doing like work within myself.
Yeah. Right.
And I know, like, as an adult, we talk a lot about like validation and how you shouldn't need validation. But to me, when you are a developing person and you're a small child, you do need that validation.
Absolutely.
You need that guidance. You need somebody to tell you, you know, you're smart, or you're doing a good job, you're beautiful. Yeah. I mean, because they teach you self-love.
Right. What they're supposed to.
What it's supposed to be. Yes. And guidance. And just looking back in my life, I didn't have that. I didn't have a place really where I felt safe. I didn't feel ever like I could really speak my mind, or because the threat of like getting your ass beat, like, you know,
just to, like, for saying what you feel.
You have to censor yourself all the time. You have to walk on eggshells, and just that anxiety building up over time from very young. So finally, when I was about 17, I had my first anxiety attack. But I didn't know that it was anxiety. Like, my chest hurt. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I remember, like, I went in my parents' room and I like cried and laid on the floor, like, because I was like, help me. And I looked at me like, get the fuck out of my room. Like, you're fine. You're like, there's nothing wrong with you. And it literally took 7 years for a doctor to diagnose me with, I think I got diagnosed with panic disorder. So by that time when I was 17, I moved to New York. You know, I'm trying to go about my life. Like, no, sorry.
Right. Like, you're fine now, right?
I keep having these bouts of anxiety, though, and I don't know what they are. Like, where I'd be in and out of the emergency room. And that was just on my physical health. But with me as a person too, I always tended to choose like toxic relationships. I mean, I never was in like a relationship where the person physically abused me. But definitely like verbal abuse, or just it felt familiar to me. Like, to me, it made me think that love didn't feel good. So if like somebody was coming and they were like treating me nice, and it was like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, you're weird.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like this. But when I felt bad, when I felt down about myself,
it was normal.
That I recognized that, and I said, okay, he loves me. He loves me.
Yep.
He's treating me like shit. This is great.
your inner child is so used to that chaos that if you're not in trauma and drama, you're like, this is not normal. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I said, so finally, like 24, I get diagnosed, and Dr. Funky says, this is what I think is going on with you. And I read the paper and said, oh my God, for the past 7 years, this is what I have been going through. And during that time, like, I don't know if anybody's experienced anxiety and depression, but it is terrible.
I have.
It is like, for me, I would drop like 20 pounds in a week.
Because you just can't eat. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it got to a point where, like, if this is how I have to live, like, I don't want to live like this. And that actually wasn't the first time I thought that, though. The first time that I thought about, like, not wanting to live, I was about 11, my daughter's age.
Wow. I was 9. We talked about this too.
Yes.
How young it starts.
Yes. And not necessarily that, like I said, I even knew that, like, something was wrong with my life, because you don't have anything else to compare it to when you're young, but I just knew I wasn't happy.
Right.
You know, I loved my parents, but I didn't love how I felt. And so that's the first time I ever thought about taking my life. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take, my parents had pills, and they came out, I'm going to take these pills. And I got scared because I thought it might hurt. Yeah. So then I didn't go through with it. But, you know, as I look back, I'm like, wow, at 11 years old, you've only been on the earth 11 years, and you already want to like end your life. Like, and I knew from there, I was like, okay, if I ever have kids, I'm never going to treat my kids like this. And I did get in trouble a little bit, because I would, you know, sometimes you test the waters, and just growing into a person, I would tell my parents, I'm never going to let you babysit. I'm never going to let you around my kids. Yeah. Because I knew that wasn't how, like, kids should be treated. And luckily I was blessed with a child, and I have done things completely different with her. So yeah, just wow, all the memories like coming up.
No, and you know what? And you know what? First of all, what you just shared was so heavy, because I know that just from our conversation, that is something that you really haven't really talked about much. You know, how that period of time when you were so young and you were being sexually taken advantage of, right? Molested by a grown adult, and how no one ever took that time to acknowledge that trauma.
Never.
You know, no one has ever said, you know, like your mom completely went the other way, right? Which is, oh, you're just going to turn out to be this weirdo. Is that what she said?
Like something was wrong with me. Like there was something wrong with me. And actually that man, he is currently in jail for rape and murder of somebody.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask you if he is locked up, because that man should be locked up for what he did to you and anyone else.
And I used to often think, like, when I first got that news, like, what if my parents had went to the police? What if they had, then whoever's life he took, you know, could possibly still be here? And so I think I internalized a little bit of guilt with that too. Oh, wow. You know, because even though, like, I mean, I was 6, like, what action can I take? But I still just feel like, wow, if things had been a little bit different, like, he would have never had the opportunity to really
continue on.
And who knows? Because I was already an adult when he went to jail. So how many other people he hurt or in between that time, and that's just the one that he got caught for. Right.
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you that the feeling of guilt is so common among survivors, victims, because they internalize what they experienced, and they blame themselves. You know, that was something that I also struggle with, like thinking that I was a bad child, even though I was being beaten, you know, like crazy beatings, right? And you're thinking that this is your fault, because as a child, think about how we're programmed as a kid. We reward good behaviors, and we quote unquote punish children for bad behaviors. So when an adult manipulates you at a young age of 3, and they're saying, oh, this is good, like what he's doing to you is good, and that you shouldn't tell anyone, you've already been programmed to think that that's okay. And that if you told on him, or if you don't like it, that's your fault. So the guilt was already inserted at that point.
Exactly. And then I think what we don't realize too is, like, that stays with you.
Oh my gosh.
It imprints you. And in fact, I think when people are abused, whatever kind of abuse, I always describe it like this whenever I did talk to somebody about it. I feel like little pieces of who you were supposed to be are chipped away. So to step into your full potential, not that you never can, but if you don't do any work later on, if you don't do anything to heal, it'll be virtually impossible because little pieces of you have been chipped away. They've been little, every time you're beat,
Wow.
a little bit of your self-worth and your self-esteem is taken from you every
Yes.
time. No matter what. And I've had discussions. I've always been very passionate about non-physical discipline for children.
Yeah.
Because yes, will you get results if you beat your child? Absolutely.
Right.
Are they learning anything?
No.
No, they're learning to fear you. They're
Right.
learning that they're not valuable.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I felt. Because when somebody, especially somebody who's supposed to be your nurturer and your caretaker,
right,
is coming at you and with a weapon. I mean, let's be honest, what it really is. When your parents pick up a belt, a stick,
your hands,
their hands, those are weapons being
absolutely
used against a child who, like, 60 pounds to your 150, 180 pounds.
Yep. Yep.
It's just, so I've always been very passionate about, like, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like it just tears a little piece of your self-worth, just kind of takes a little bit every single time.
Yeah.
And it really takes a lot of work. And if you don't know to even do the work, because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
You don't even know the work to do. You're just kind of lost later in life. Like when you have things like depression or manifest in the body as disease and you're 22 with like freaking cancer, or you know what I mean? These are all things.
I think like what you said right there is so important because, like, you know, when we talked about this the first time, how both of us, when we first met, first of all, let me just tell the audience that when we first met, we both met each other and had no idea. Like when I met her, I didn't know she was a survivor. Like I didn't know she had gone through trauma. And when she had met me, she knew that like I had founded Project Beauty, but we never actually sat down and talked. Like I met her through the Beauty Angel process, you know? And I remember like meeting you and thinking, wow, this woman is absolutely beautiful. You have such a successful business. I mean, you are a well-known esthetician, you're a celebrity makeup artist. I mean, you are successful. And never would I thought, listening to your story, you know, after we talked and got to know each other, that you've experienced so much darkness in your early years.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with me, because you were like, girl, I had no idea that you had went through such horrific abuse, because we both of us have done so much work, right?
So much work
to get to where we are. And that's why it's so important that we're sharing the story, because this didn't happen overnight, guys. Like we didn't just get up one day.
Let me just be fully transparent.
Please.
I had a therapy session earlier today. You know, still doing work. And I was telling Jo before too, like I don't even really ever talk about it with people, with friends, especially the sexual abuse part, because there's so much shame and guilt with that, even as a child. And I've heard other people do it to other children who have been like, oh, well, she's fast, or she's grown, or she's this. But what?
These labels.
Right. And I mean, there are boyfriends I've had that I've been intimate with that I've never told, you know, these things about, because of the shame and the guilt that's associated with it.
Well, by you sharing your story today, and I want to emphasize this, is that when we give space for stories and emotions that we've suppressed, especially trauma, we free it. We free that trauma from our body when we give the safe space like this to say, I am not those experiences, right? Because at some point, I'm sure you can relate, at some point you have to look at the experience and go, wait, that may have happened to me, but doesn't define me.
Yeah.
And that was my turning point too. It was like, I know that was some really horrible stuff, but wait a minute, I will not let that determine my future. Because I, like you, I was depressed and not feeling good and ignored it, right? Because how many years did you ignore it before you actually said, wait a minute, I think I need to do some healing work? For me, it was like 10 years.
It was like not until my early 30s.
Yeah,
that
same.
That was the first time I even heard the concept of like self-worth or self-love. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to value myself and love myself. Like, I'm supposed, how do I do that? And it wasn't until then that I really like cried about things that like happened to me.
Yes.
Like I would go to sleep almost every night just crying and just, you know, just going through the hurt and the pain of like that. But then I like, okay, it happened.
Yeah.
It does not have to define who I am.
Yeah.
I started to realize where I was like shy with meeting new people and where that stemmed from. And it gave me anxiety meeting new people because I always had my mother's voice in my head. You're a weirdo. So when I would meet new people, I would think, oh my God, I said the dumbest thing. They probably think I'm weird. You know, so I would just be quiet when I met new people. Some people think I was snobby or bougie or, you know, distant. And it's like, and so that's why I always give grace to people, because you don't know what's
What
going
type?
on. You don't know what their inner story is.
Yes.
And through my self-work, I've realized that every relationship we have, the way we view the world, the experiences we have are directly related to our perspective, like based on
Yes.
things that have happened to us. So a
Yes.
lot of times when people are doing something that's weird, or you're like, what the hell is their problem? It is their problem. It's something that they're going through. So I've learned
Right.
not to take things personal from people
Yes.
either, because it's just their own projection. The way
It's
they're
unhealed.
reacting, yes, the way they're reacting to me or to anything is based on their own projection and the way that their emotions are reacting to that. And really, very rarely has anything to do with you as the person receiving whatever the treatment is. And so I'm able to hold that same grace for my parents. Like, they just doing what was done to them. And,
Yes.
we operate from our level of consciousness. So
Absolutely.
I know if they knew better, then they would have done better.
Yeah.
And
I think forgiveness. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
And
I
I
want
was
to say that part of the healing, like for anyone that's listening, because we're getting so much feedback, they're really resonating with your story. And I'm just thank you guys for everybody that's interacting and showing love. This is so important because a lot of people don't know that guilt and that like all that components that you're speaking of are all part of different stages of the healing journey, right? Because a lot of times we think that healing is linear. We think that it's like, oh, you go through trauma, boom, you do the work and you're here. No, the healing journey looks like this.
Yeah.
It takes you everywhere. Like I remember for me, 1 year, like I think when I got pregnant, like same thing with you, when you had Bella, I felt like when I was pregnant, that's when the connection really hit me that, wait a minute, my parents, like I went through severe abuse, right? It's like, wait a minute, they did the best that they can. It was like this whole energy of forgiveness that came over me that said, you know what, I gotta let this go. I cannot hold this against them. They did, like you said, they're acting from patterns. They're acting from generational patterns because they were beaten from their parents. Their parents were beaten from their parents. And then their ancestors were beaten from all these experiences that have shaped us, our bloodline. These are generational trauma patterns that we're carrying in our body. It is
100%.
not easy to just say, I'm breaking it, and it happens in one night. No, ma'am.
And that's where I can like be proud of myself, is that and from childhood I knew like y'all not babysitting my kids. Just kidding, though, because my mom does babysit my kid all the time, and she's a completely different person now.
Yeah,
but
she's changed now.
I'm breaking this cycle. I'm not a perfect mother at all, but just it goes back to I know better, so I'm doing better.
That's right. Yes.
And I know also to continue with not only being a mother, but just having the best human experience I can. I've got to continue to do the work within myself. And there's still a ton of like inner child work that I need to do, because I still to this day, like, feel self-conscious, or I feel like I need a lot of validation from other people. Like I can't make a decision on my own. It's hard for me to trust within myself, because like I said, as a child, I was not allowed to speak like my idea, or I was scared to speak up for myself. So even now I tend to just like, I'd rather just let it go than like have confrontation.
Speak up.
And to speak up. So there's still lots of things that I'm working on, but the more work that you do, it really does open up your eyes. And like I said, for me, just even like giving grace to other people, because we don't know people's stories, and everybody has one. Like the people you would never even think, I'm working with women, and I feel like for what I do now, like I'm so able to relate to so many different people, like the stories I hear when people are laying in my bed.
Yes.
And like a lot of people have gone through suffering and so many things. And it's a journey. And I used to think like, okay, when I read this book, when I see this therapist, I'm gonna be better. Life is gonna be great. And they're all, so how I look at it now is they're all just like little tools that I'm putting in my box, things that help me at different times, but there is no end point. There is no,
exactly.
Okay, I'm going to get here. I mean, you do rise in levels of consciousness and healing, but there is no,
there's always more.
There's always more.
To be aware of and to heal, I think is, because I feel the same, like I tell people that healing happens in layers, and it happens in stages. And so like a lot of times, and let me know if you relate to this, it's like sometimes I'll go through my healing work and I think that I'm great. Like I think that part of me, for example, I'm very, very authentic. I share. I'm an open book. I talk about abandonment issues a lot because as a child, I went through a lot of abuse that caused me to feel that at any time now I could be abandoned, right? And that if I'm not good enough, that people can abandon me. And so I struggle with abandonment issues. And I remember doing a lot of healing work and thinking that I was okay, right? And then it's like, you know, recently I just started dating again. And let me tell you, all those triggers, guys. Oh, wait a minute. You think you're healed, huh?
Oh yeah, that'll
you know what?
definitely bring
I
out
laugh
stuff.
about it. We have to laugh about it because we're not perfect. No one is. And the fact that we have enough awareness to say, hey, I'm aware that I'm a work in progress. I'm aware that I'm so proud of how far I have come, but I totally have awareness that I still have more work. That is an absolutely okay place to be in.
Yes.
We don't always have to be completely 100% perfect or by the goal or by 2021, I'm going to be at this place. You just don't know. Give yourself grace. I love what you're saying. Give yourself grace and give other people grace. I love that.
The experience will be so much better. And instead of, I've learned, you know, I used to think like, why me? Like, why did I get molested? Like, you know, my sister didn't. Like, why did I? Like, why was I like such a terrible, ugly child that I was beaten? Or just anything in life. Like, why me? And now I've kind of just learned how to like let that go. And every experience is unique for each person. And there's something in my life that I needed those experiences to be who I am, to have the level of understanding that I have.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
A great thing. And I want to say too, because I feel like a lot of times when people experience like abuse and a lot of trauma in their life and they just feel like, you know, kind of worthless, right?
Yeah.
That story does not have to be your story for your entire life. Like that's a chapter, the time period that happened, but we are the creators of our life. And you can rewrite your story. You know, I'm rewriting that story that my mother told me that I'm weird. I'm totally rewriting and editing that story because that story, first of all, is not true. And I control how I feel and how the rest of my story is going to. I didn't have any control when I was a little girl, when I was a child, but I have control now of how my story is going to go. And that's not the story that I want it to be.
That is amazing. And that's incredible. I know a lot of people want to know, like, of course, you have such a great, you know, perspective and such a handle on your experience. And there may be people that are listening out there that may not be where you're at. Share with us some of the tools that you have used along with your journey. Like me and you both are into meditation and affirmations, but share with us in the audience, what are some of the tools that you have found very helpful for you in your healing journey?
And I just want to say, like, these things work, these tools worked for me. There's no guarantee they will work for every single person.
Yeah.
But first, I found like different techniques, like stress relief techniques, like whether it be like hand motions, just bring awareness to like releasing like your shoulders, your jaw, all of that kind of stuff. It was like the doorway. And then I got introduced to breath work from a friend, like just breathing. And it really resonated for me because for pretty much anything in life, when you're giving birth, you know, they teach you how to breathe so that you can get through the birthing process. When you're in a lot of pain, for anything, if you're hyperventilating, you know, that bag trick, it's all about breath. Like breath really is life. You can go days without food, days without water, but most of us can't barely go like a minute, maybe 2 minutes without air, and then you're done. So I feel like when you can get control of your breath, which is, you know, your life force energy, it really begins a healing process. And how that healing process will look for each person is different. But that's a great starting place and something that everybody at any age, any size, male or female can do. So highly, highly recommend breath work.
Love it.
Breath work took me into a type of yoga called Kundalini, which deals with your different chakras, just the energy and the flow of life, the different channels through your body, different meridians and things like that. This opens up a whole nother door and layers of healing, and not only healing, but transformation, right? Because when you start to heal, you start to transform. And so I'm a completely different person than I was even a year ago, 6 months, than who I was in March. You know what I mean?
Seriously, right?
So, you know, healing, transformation, and those practices have really worked for me. And talking about it, you know, talking about your experiences, finding your tribe, letting
Yes.
go of relationships and people who want to remind you and keep you in the place of your past. And it's okay to let those go.
Yeah.
But that's all, like I said, a part of like the healing process. Like when it's time, you'll just know as you go, and things will fall apart, relationships will fall apart. And again, instead of thinking like, why is this person not here in my life anymore? You know what? This is for you. The letting go of that relationship is for you. And just recognizing those types of things. But it comes in times. I want people to feel like, you know, tomorrow, you know, or like
right.
do one yoga class and like tomorrow you're healed. No.
You know what? I was in that space when I started my therapy, my therapy sessions, in like, you know, after my abuse and everything, when I started going to a therapist. Oh, are you still there? Hello? Desiree. Uh-oh, did we lose her? We'll see if she comes back on. I think we just lost her for a second. Uh-oh. Hello? Uh-oh, we may have to get her back on. Let me see here. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have her come back on. I think we had some technical difficulties, but guys, this is like such a powerful conversation. Let me see if I can bring her back on. I know she was having issues with her phone. But if you guys have any questions for her, please, you guys can type them in the comments. When we bring her on, I'm going to go ahead and give her the questions. But I think this has been such a great chat because it's so powerful when we can share. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm going to see if she can come back on. Let me see. Oh, there she goes. Okay, here she goes. Uh-oh, nope. No, that's, oh, okay. I think that's her right here. Okay, here we go. I think she's using her daughter's phone. So we're going to bring, we're going to try.
Hey. I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so I was just having phone issues. So grab baby girl's phone.
I figured it was your phone, so that's okay.
So I'm back on baby girl's phone. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody had a question, if that's okay. While you were gone, I asked the audience if they have any questions, and we have a question that says, what was your inspiration for becoming a permanent makeup artist?
Okay, so I was a makeup artist for a really, really long time, like probably like 10 years before I kind of got into that. And I went to esthetician school and I learned how to do facials and waxing. I was really good at eyebrow waxing, but then that can only do so much for people if they don't have any hair. So I spent all this money to do eyebrow extensions, and then somebody introduced me to permanent makeup. And then changer once I learned how to do that. I could really do something once I learned how to do that.
And guys, if you're not following her makeup, her professional business account, which is I Love Dallas, like I Love Dallas, go follow her right now after this live. Check out her work. I've actually had her dermaplane, her facials. She's amazing. I'm actually soon will be getting my eyebrows done because she is absolutely highly booked. She stays booked, okay? All right. Okay. So any recommendation on yoga classes?
So I really love this, and I just with COVID I haven't been doing it, but hot yoga where specifically Bikram yoga.
Yes.
And, I didn't know it at the time, right? Because sometimes you're just led to do things.
Yes.
That type of yoga is very healing because one, usually in a room to 105 degrees, you are sweating and you're sweating out toxins, but you are also the breath work that I mentioned. You start and end the class with breath work, and it's an hour and a half. And from start to finish, you will feel completely different by the end of the class.
Yeah. Than
you did in the beginning. And I think it does help you to shed not only toxins, but just things like traumas, things that
because it's trapped in your body. Like we talked about before, how trauma, and if you guys don't know, when you experience trauma, it gets stored energetically into our body.
Yeah, so I think that's a great one to start with. And the reason that one specifically is because, and not just any regular hot yoga class, a regular hot yoga class is a random flow. It'll always be different. With Bikram, it is the same 20 poses. Every class. So you can even monitor your progress, and each pose is very intentional. So that's why I highly, highly recommend that type of yoga, and also Kundalini yoga,
which you teach,
which I do.
And talk to them about how Kundalini yoga and becoming an instructor has helped you with your own anxiety. Because I know that's something that, please share that, because I know that was one of the things that you suffer greatly from what you experienced.
And so the story of how I even became a certified Kundalini yoga teacher is crazy, like totally spirit-led. I wanted to be like a hatha yoga teacher, like the regular yoga type. And my friend kept pushing me. She's like, no, I see you doing Kundalini. I did it like 2 times for her. And then the training came out. I signed up for it October of last year, literally with my credit card in my hand, like, what are you doing? What are you paying for this? You don't even know like what this is.
Yeah.
And then I started in January of this year. And as I went through it, in hindsight, I totally see why, because I don't think I would have been able to make it through like the anxiety of everything that happened in the beginning of the year, without learning these techniques, and specifically the breathing techniques.
Oh.
Because even now, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a little bit of anxiety, and I can lay there and be like, too tired for this shit. This anxiety, I recognize you.
Yes.
You are. I can get control of my breathing again on my own, because if anybody, when you go through it, that's what I think escalates it into a panic.
Yes.
And you cannot get control of your breathing, because then you panic, you're like, oh my God, I can't breathe.
Right.
Then you're hyperventilating at this point. So you're sucking in way more air than you're exhaling. So if you guys are ever having a panic attack and you're having trouble like taking in air, exhale out, just completely just exhale out till you cannot push more air out. Once you push all the air out, it'll be much easier to take a breath in. When you keep trying to,
the short, shallow breath is where it gets you trouble.
Yes. So, and then just learning the background, like going deep. Because when we take yoga classes, you just take the class, right? You don't really know the background. You don't know where it came from. So for me to dive deep, and also the time of like shelter, to really just have that open period of time to be alone, to go. It synced up like magic. So I know that was spirit led, and it literally changed my life.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing you after the certification, like after you went through your training, and your anxiety, like everything, your whole energy was so much more calmer. Like I can just tell that you had such a greater handle on what was going on. And I think you point out such a great point on sharing about the breathing, because having awareness, guys, awareness is our power. When we can say, wait a minute, that breathing is shallow, let me get deeper. It's like in that moment, you take control of that energy of panic that's trying to take over you. So that's a great tip. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it really, I mean, I suffered a lot from 17 to I just turned 39, like a long, long time of going through. And I remember like graduation day, I cried. We had to speak about like what it meant to us. Of course, I'm going to be the one that cries. Nobody else cried, but for me it was because like, it took me to be like 30 to learn how to breathe.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy how we were never taught any of these things in school? Soothing methods, like, because what you really had to learn after all the trauma you've been through, I mean, if we really boil it down to the basics, is that we had to learn on our own how to soothe our inner child.
Yes.
Because we were never given that space to feel safe, to feel validated, to feel valued. When you are not given that space as a child, you literally walk through life and you're in an adult body. You're like, oh, you're grown up now. But guess what? The inner child that's broken, that's traumatized, that has to be healed. That has to be acknowledged. So we are literally, honestly, all of us on some level are just trying to heal that inner child.
Yes. And if anybody's interested too, a book that my yoga therapist has me working with, I haven't finished it yet, but it's called Homecoming.
Homecoming? Okay.
Yes, by John Bradshaw. And it has little exercises and tips in there how you can work with your child and work with healing and basically reparenting your like.
Oh, there you go, reparenting.
We didn't have the parents that that we would have liked to have to nurture us and to help guide us into adulthood.
Right.
So we kind of have to go back and do that for ourselves now.
But
get to a point, it's like if you just tell that to somebody, they're like, well, how do I do that?
Right.
So that book is a great tip. And one of the things that my therapist had me do too is like I took a picture of myself from when I was about 4 or 5 years old in my refrigerator. So that way I look at her every day. And so when I see little Desiree, I can talk to her. I can just tell her,
oh, that's beautiful.
You're safe.
Yes.
I can just picture myself hugging her, or even just go back to a memory of something where I was being hurt or not well, and just going over and just visualizing yourself hugging her, protecting her, or him, for the males that could be, watching, because they need healing too.
That's right.
And those are all really great things that we can do to heal ourselves, because it really is, despite everything that's happened to us, it is our responsibility now as adults to do the healing, to really do the work. But first, the desire has to be there.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I think that is the light, the tea of the night. We can heal ourselves, but the intention,
Yeah,
has to be there.
you have to want.
So powerful.
Yeah,
That's so powerful.
I'm not there, then some people are good walking around with their trauma.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you so much for sharing all of that. If you guys want to know, and somebody says they want to sign up for your class, so Sally, make sure you guys connect, because I think, okay, so Desiree actually did a Good Vibe Sunday with us a while back, where she actually walked us through a meditation and also some yoga moves. Would you be interested in coming back and showing us some breath work and all of that?
I would love to, because I am a new teacher. I've graduated in August, so I'm really trying to develop my tribe and to just practice with people and introduce people to the practice too, because that's been very, very helpful and transformative for.
Absolutely. And I think that, especially with your story and how you were able to really go through your journey of transformation, of healing. So no, absolutely. I want to thank you, for coming on and just sharing this space. I really enjoy myself. I really love holding the space for other women to come into their beauty and healing. So, and tonight was so healing for me on so many levels. And I hope everybody that's listening really enjoyed tonight. I know they were all saying that it was so amazing, and I think we should do this more often, just coming on and just sharing stories. So if you're listening, and if you have any stories, if you have a story of healing and of overcoming, please send us a DM. I would absolutely love to share more stories like this, so that other women can see that, hey, look at these two women right there, right? Like, I know that I can get to a better place, because whatever stage you're at, don't judge yourself, right? Because 2 years ago, I wasn't where I am now, right? A year ago, you wasn't where you are now. So
I'm talking about 6 months ago. Whatever March was, I wasn't the same person, Every day is, you get to new levels, and new transformation happens all the time. And I would love to come back on and do a meditation or
it's done, girl. Yes, we're doing it, because we are starting. I mean, and I kind of want to I guess I'll let what is it called? Let the bird out of the bag. I don't know. English is my second language, you guys. I'm just letting the tea drop, or whatever you want to call it. But we're going to start some community-based healing workshops, which means that we're going to start showing the community different holistic ways of healing to help trauma experiences, like yoga, like meditation, like sound baths, right? Because all of those things are amazing tools at our disposal that we can share with the community. So if you guys are listening, be lookout for that. We're going to start doing some community healing classes, because guess what, guys? Healing is the new bag, okay? And that's what we're going for. So thank you. Sending you so much love, and I will save this on our IGTV, so that anyone, if you guys want to share this with someone that you love, a friend, a coworker, please do, because this is about empowering and really inspiring others to take the next step wherever stages that they're in, okay? So any last words, Desiree?
Thank you so much for having me, creating the safe space for me to share, and hope this was helpful for somebody. So.
Girl, yes. Look at all the feedback. Everybody loves it. So you did amazing. Thank you so much. And we will continue this safe space. That's why Project Beauty exists. Project Beauty exists to hold space for healing for all women. So thank you so much. Bye, guys.